Good morning, everybody. Welcome to CSU Pueblo Extended Studies Podcast, Wolftracks. And I am Gary Salazar. I'm the Associate Dean here at Extended Studies. We work with all sorts of adults and non-traditional students. And this is our 20-minute conversation about some amazing programs, people, and projects that, I'm excited to work with. So thank you for joining us. We try to highlight areas that are important to people, elevate them, that create educational opportunities as well. Also, if there's an opportunity to foster any kind of help for our communities and helping you become better, we're all about it. We record these, I think I've mentioned this before, we record these on our YouTube channel. We send them out through other media. And I'm just plain excited today that Dr. Emily Mulvihill, who is an assistant professor of education and over in our College of Education, our School of Education, rather, she oversees K through 12 educational leadership programs. She's a student advisor for the doctorate education program, and she's also a director for the Center for Integrated Health and Human Inquiry. I think I got that right.
Yep.
Thank you for stopping by, Emily. I so appreciate you being here. Again, we did this, like we said earlier, about a year and a half, 2 years ago. So it's great to catch up. Can we begin with you actually catching us up on a little bit about your background and what you do in education?
Yeah, well, you said it so perfectly, Gary. I don't know how much I have to add, but I'm so excited to be here to speak about the Educational Leadership and Principal Licensure track at CSU Pueblo. As you mentioned, it's been a couple of years since we've spoken, and I feel like our program continues to grow, and we have really exciting initiatives that we are putting forth to continue to improve what we're doing at CSUP within the K-12 educational leadership focus. So, as you mentioned, I'm the lead faculty member of the program, which began almost 3 years ago, which is amazing to think about. Personally, I have an EdD in educational leadership, which aligns really nicely with our doctorate of educational leadership in the School of Education. I have two master's degrees and an undergraduate degree in psychology. My personal background is as a principal, assistant principal, and K-12 educator with a focus in elementary ed, but I've taught it all at this point. So K-12 and now higher ed. And I'm certified in a number of areas to include elementary ed, English, special education, gifted education, and a couple of others. So in addition to my baby and my focus and passion and work with educational leadership, I also teach courses in our doctoral program. And that focus is an educational leadership focus as well. And then, like you mentioned, I do all the advising for the doctoral program. So I'm very lucky and blessed to be able to work with students in a number of different capacities. And it always seems to come back to educational leadership. So that's my passion for sure.
Oh, holy cow. My gosh, Emily. Talk about experience. You have no time. Whoa.
I do. I have a wonderful daughter, a great husband, and we really focus a lot of our time on our rescue dogs, who some of them are probably here in the room with me, but we're passionate about it. A lot of different things outside of the educational leadership realm too. But yeah, it's busy, but I feel like the work is really meaningful, and the students in the program are probably busier than I am, honestly, and are pretty amazing people. So I feel lucky to just be a part of a small part of their journey. But yeah.
Yeah, that's awesome. We got to talk about rescue dogs later. I got a few of those too.
Oh, I didn't
But
know, Gary. Okay.
yeah, we'll get back to that. All right.
Okay,
All
great.
right. Principal licensure. What is that? When I first heard those words, I thought, well, is this a stock market thing? But no, this is education. Could you elaborate a little bit?
Yeah. And so we kind of at CSU Pueblo use a shorthand phrase, principal licensure, but I have to be honest, I have students who are currently interested or in leadership positions that aren't necessarily principal based. And so when we think about a principal, we think of someone who is in charge of a school, part of a larger district, perhaps. But we have a lot of diversity within what principal licensure educational leadership could mean. I have a student now who is pursuing this license and she just wants to be an athletic director someday. I have a student who is a dean and they would like to move on to potentially being an assistant principal. Some definitely want to pursue the principalship, but there are a lot of different jobs within the state of Colorado Colorado and nationally, really, that require this license, and principal is just one of them. So it's a diverse license. If you're looking to move into leadership or even work maybe at a district role, or you're just interested in leadership, I think this could be a great fit for you, potentially. So it's essentially designed, the program is to prepare aspiring school leaders to effectively manage and lead in schools by equipping them with specific skills like leadership, instruction, evaluation and supervision, organizational management. And we focus on really applying theory to application. So you'll hear me talk about that a lot. We, of course, want our students to be able to positively affect school culture, and develop strategies for continuous school improvement, but they're really taking what they're learning, hopefully in my classes, and applying it to their field. So most of my students are full-time teachers, full-time current school leaders, or interested in being in leadership positions. And so they're balancing full-time work, full-time school, and then also their personal lives as well.
Yeah.
And so they're doing a lot in the field, and I want them to be able to take what they're learning and apply it immediately. And they do that partially through the internship, which I can definitely speak about too. But hopefully just in a reading that particular week, or I ask them something about a reading and it relates to something they did that particular month in school. So they're really immediately applying what they're learning about educational leadership. So I hope that answers your question.
Yes, it did. You answered
Good.
like 3 or 4 questions in that.
Oh, okay, great.
All right. So wonderful program, helping people move up into leadership positions. Is this something that we see as a need here in the state of Colorado?
Yeah, and I forgot to mention in my previous answer too, in addition to that piece of working professionals often pursuing this licensure, the program is really unique because we have small class sizes, although we continue to grow. We have really flexible formatting. And so most of our classes are 8 weeks. We have two that are 16 weeks. One of those is the internship I mentioned, and they're asynchronous courses. So that means that students end up being able to access the coursework in a way that is flexible for them. They're not self-paced, they're not independent learning. So you're guided by me as the professor. You have a cohort of students that create a really small, really strong community that you can rely on. But because of busy schedules that professionals have, they can, during a particular week, read the assignment when they would like to, submit the work by a specific deadline, but do that maybe in the evening or maybe early in the morning, depending on their schedule. So there's a lot of flexibility there. It's also 27 credits, which I didn't mention, for the post-baccalaureate certificate. Students can wrap that 27 credits into a Master of Education all online for an extra 11 credits and then get both, which is a fantastic deal, I think. And essentially what we do is take all of the coursework, and when the internship and coursework are complete, students then can sit for the state exam and apply for licensure through Colorado Department of Education. And we as the School of Education support and are able to sign off on paperwork to say that the student completed the coursework and internship with them. But to kind of go back and answer your question, the program does directly address Colorado's educational leadership shortages, which is nationwide. We definitely have a shortage of qualified principals who are equipped to meet the needs of the unique schools across the state and really across the country. And so we focus on trying to maintain and build a strong pipeline of highly qualified educational leaders, specifically in underserved areas, to help address the gaps in leadership within schools that we find. And although we have had most of our students come from the state of Colorado, we can support students who are outside the state of Colorado too.
Okay, yeah, well, that was a question I had too. If somebody is, and thank you for mentioning asynchronous, we got to go back to that in a second, but if it's an online course and somebody joins your program from another state, do they have to worry about any kind of state requirements that they have if they're taking your program?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. So what I encourage students to do is to, if they're interested in our program and they're outside of the state of Colorado, is to examine what is required by their state. And so they can do that by going to their state Department of Education and making sure that our program aligns with what their state requires. And then what they would do is similar to our Colorado students, complete the coursework, complete the internship, take any state exams that are required. We do provide a little bit of support with the state exam if if you're interested in learning more about that. And then they would apply through their state, and we could provide paperwork that states that
Okay.
the student completed the coursework required, and they would be eligible for licensure in their state.
Wow, that's really good. It's really supportive, and it makes it available to just not just our population, but lots of folks. Cool.
Definitely.
Great done. Asynchronous environment, and you explained that so well. And really, a lot of the learners that we work with, like you said, they're busy people, they have jobs, they have
Yep.
family life, they have things they want to do. So if somebody's doing asynchronous, I just wanted to see if you could elaborate a bit. Um, that means there is a teacher there. You're helping do the guidance, you're checking how they're going, but there's material that they have to go through, and they go through that at their own speed. Is that correct?
It is. We're not a cohort model, but it sort of ends up being a cohort model because if students take all of the classes required for the principal licensure, they can actually complete the entire set of courses and internship required in 1 year. So we offer classes fall, spring, and summer, and say that you just really are excited and you want to apply next fall for a new position. That is something that you could do if you began your coursework and took all of the classes offered throughout an entire calendar year. And so that's a fantastic thing for busy professionals and those that really want to promote and move quickly into educational leadership roles. But because of that, you'll see a lot of the same students in classes together, which is nice because you get to know them. We discuss things. I do host optional synchronous sessions as well, which again,
Well, that's
completely
nice.
optional, but I'll invite local school leaders or national school leaders who have expertise to serve on a principal panel. And in those cases, those will all be via Zoom. I've had legal counsel from school districts come and visit us to speak about law in our law class. I have also done mock interview sessions for students. And so just thinking outside the box about these optional synchronous ways that even though the coursework is accessible when students are available, I want to create a community and give students the skills necessary in order to be successful. So thinking about what that looks like outside of readings and assignments and that community. But to go back to the asynchronous piece, how I organize my courses, for example, if it was an 8-week course, would be by module and week. So 1 week would be module 1. There would be typically an assignment, discussion board, some responses to peers to interact and collaborate and critically think about what we've learned about that week. There's usually an interactive lecture. There are also sometimes written assignments. I give a lot of voice and choice too for those assignments. So sometimes it might be a paper, or if you'd prefer as a student, you might be able to demonstrate your learning through a PowerPoint, for example. I also have longer term projects. So an example would be a professional development designed course that students are thinking about how they would address adult learners in a professional development unit, which is something educational leaders do quite a bit. And that's a big project, right? So that would be due, for example, at the end of the semester. But because I want students to be able to plan ahead with their busy schedules, I would introduce that particular project in week 2, and then they'd have time to work on it throughout the coming weeks and submit it by week 8. Those deadlines within the week are pretty set. But again, if you do your work well, or you only have time to be able to access your reading or the lecture, which is asynchronous too, or your assignments in the morning or in the afternoon, then you have the flexibility to be able to do that. I am there providing virtual office hours. I have a physical office on campus too, so you can always come visit me if you're local or traveling and want to see me. I mean, we can do lunch and talk more, or you can just come in and say hello. We also can talk through text or phone or email. I'm very accessible as a professor, and I try to provide that support. And then I'm constantly sending reminders and checking in and gathering feedback about what's going well and what's not too. The internship looks a little bit different. It's even more high touch than that. But I think it's a good balance of asynchronous, like I mentioned, and that flexibility, but also really building that relationship between professor and then student to student too.
Yeah. Anyway, it's just amazing hearing you talk. I had a separate conversation just yesterday with another professor, and we're talking about the asynchronous environment and how that's structured. And what you do is, I think you exemplify the
Mhm.
best of how a professor can work with students in that environment. I mean, you're not on them all the time, but you're listening and guiding and being there for them. The flexibility that you're providing is awesome. So, I mean,
Thank
thank
you.
you for doing that. That's incredible work just in itself. Okay,
Thank you.
well, I want to keep on going here because we only have a few minutes left.
I know, oh my gosh, sorry.
All right. Have you seen any changes in the education industry since you've started this program? I mean, things that people are need to be aware of when they come into it, things that you have added or modified in your program. Are there changes that you're seeing come up that we need to stay up with?
Yeah, oh, that's a great question. And I think the education industry is constantly evolving. So I personally try to spend as much time in schools as I can. One thing in the School of Ed that we also do is go out into the community and supervise new teachers and those who are going through an alternative licensure pathway, which could be a whole different type of podcast as well. But we also offer, in addition to, and I'm glad you mentioned this, to the traditional pathway of I'm a teacher, I'm interested in educational leadership, those who have secured, for example, an assistant principal or principal position and would like to be able to get a license, maybe they don't have their license yet, we offer an alternative licensure pathway. So your school district, for example, would provide you with the actual job and the educational leadership position. And you would come to us as CSU Pueblo and say, I have this job, I need a license. Can someone support me? Can CSU Pueblo sponsor me within this position to complete my coursework so I can eventually get my license? And in those cases, I have the ability to go out into the field, see what is new and evolving, and supervise those particular candidates who are in AP or principal positions. And this can be local, where we're meeting in person, or it could be virtual too. So I, as a professor, try to keep my foot in the field of education and what's happening on the ground regularly. I take professional development, I go to conferences. Because the field is constantly evolving, we have a direct impact on what future principals have to be prepared to address. So, an example might be growing use of technology, artificial intelligence, for example, how that's impacting classrooms and school management, and how principals have to be proficient in these digital tools and data analysis in order to understand the changing landscape. And I think the importance lately, especially since COVID, and the focus on fostering a positive school culture with social emotional learning, students as a whole person, not just the academic focus, those are all things that I learn, and then I try to implement them within what I'm doing in my classes, talk to students about them, send them resources, provide a space for them to ask questions or invite experts in to also be able to speak on those different topics. One specific further example is the Colorado State Department of Education requires regular updates to standards. So about a year ago, they came to all pre-principal, all educational leadership programs and said, the READ Act, which is focused on literacy in grades K to 3 in particular, and education evaluation standards, so how we evaluate teachers as educational leaders, those were updated. And so we as principal prep programs were required to go out, implement new assignments, readings, discussions, and really work to align our programs with the standards to keep them relevant and up to date. So I work closely with colleagues and students, recent literature, and like any field changes to be able to implement those changes so we're up to date with the programming and constantly evolving, as I mentioned.
Yeah. Wow. Wow. Double wow. Emily, thank
A
you for
lot.
that. I mean, there's a lot in that. Just if you were to unwrap all that, you'd have a podcast on every single one of those topics. I mean,
I know, right?
and talking about the challenges out there and AI, I mean, again, a separate discussion just yesterday. And after I came back from a conference on online learning, where AI was so huge. So everybody's talking about it. We're trying to find our way through that field. Whether you're talking about policies, whether you're talking about how do you detect it, and then what's the reliability? It's incredible what a growing area that by itself is, and leaders in education have to be aware of these things. So, thank you for
Yeah.
listening. Super. All right. Hey, we are really getting close here, but I want to ask you, have you, since you've started the program, had any feedback from any students that you would share?
Oh my gosh, this is actually really timely, Gary. I got an email the other day from a student who I've actually met in person quite a few times. We just happen to live in the same area, and I'm out in schools, and I saw her and I was like, I think that's my student, but putting the face to the name and the voice and all that, even though we talked and had Zoomed and things like that, it was fun to meet with her in person. And that said, she sent me an email the other day. She's just about to finish her coursework and apply for licensure. She took the praxis, the state exam successfully. And she said, I got an assistant principal position and I'm so excited and just wanted to reach out and tell you what an impact this program made on me. And it gives me goosebumps because like that's why I do what I do. And so we regularly receive feedback from students. It's been overwhelmingly positive. A lot of students have said that theory to application piece I talked about has been really critical in helping them be successful. And so I'm really proud of that. And they've been able to balance their professional and personal responsibilities with their academic work. And I try to give a lot of grace and space and support for them to be able to do that because I want them to be successful.
Yeah.
So that's a real focus of mine. My hope is, I had a student ask me this the other day, and I was like, oh, that's a good idea, is to collect some data perhaps on the success of the program going forward and what that looks like, just like a mini program evaluation, because we're about to go into year 3 in the fall. So I think that would be appropriate. So maybe next time we talk, I'll have some more updates for you.
That's wonderful. Oh my gosh. And I really like how you put it, the space and grace that you play or that you
Yeah.
put into the program. It's so important for people to have that so they can, for reflect, think about, ask questions. Like incredibly well done. All right, you probably heard the timer go off, but before we wrap this up, I'd
So
like
fast. Oh my gosh. Okay.
now this thing moves. If somebody wanted to reach out to you, Emily, and get some more information, what would be the best way for them to contact you?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the best way, I guess, to get the discussion started is through email. Should I leave that information with you, Gary, or what would
Yeah,
you
just go ahead and
recommend?
give me your email and verbalize the email. That's fine.
Okay, so it's Emily, Emily, period, Mulvihill. It's a little tricky, but it's spelled like it sounds. M as in Mary, UL, V as in Victor, IHILL at CSU Pueblo, PUEBLO .edu. Emily, period, Mulvihill at CSU Pueblo .edu. I'm always happy to answer questions. Usually students or prospective students will reach out to me through email. And then I'll offer Zoom, phone calls, one-on-one consultations where students can learn more about the program structure, requirements, outcomes. We have $1,000 scholarship students are eligible for potentially as new students. And I have a lot of information as far as like overviews and flyers and things that I can share. But usually I touch base with students. We follow up and I schedule a follow-up session. And then I'll follow up again just to check in. But we have a wonderful program advisor, Shauna Reinsch, who I know you know personally. She's amazing. So I'll usually connect students with Shauna as well to get them started with like the application process and registration and all those pieces too.
Yeah, very well said. And thank you for all of that. And Shauna is amazing. Um, she just does everything too. So, hey, we're going to wrap this up. We've reached the end of our podcast. Dr. Emily Mulvihill has been speaking with us, talking about principal licensure, education in general. And I hope all of you who are listening to this take away that she's just remarkable in what she's presenting here. It's amazing to help people move on with their careers and their lives, in this case, within education. So thank you. Dr. Mulvihill, you are awesome at extended studies. You just fit right into what we want to do, which is helping people attend school in a way that works best for them. And you exemplify that as well. For those of you out here who are listening, our offerings include, testing services. We have academic pathways and programs. We do a lot of things with independent study. We have satellite campuses and of course online. And that's just this piece. And we have RI as well here at this university. So that's residential instruction or classes on campus. This is pretty comprehensive, and it's a way to offer out to our communities ways to follow up with your educational needs, complete a degree, whatever it is. If you're looking for that kind of flexibility, affordability, and the guidance that you've heard that comes from Emily, I mean, it's awesome.
Yeah.
If this works for your life, then reach out to us. You can learn more through our website at csupueblo.edu/online, or you can give us a call at 719-549-2100, and we'll respond to you, or we'll get you in touch with her or whoever else can help. thank you for joining us today. It's been a pleasure bringing Wolftracks to all of you. Dr. Emily Mulvihill, thank you again.
Thank you, Gary.
Everybody out there, be safe, enjoy this warming spring weather, and take care.
Thank you.